Year 3 now, it's more impossible than before because you're just fighting getting used to it. I don't want to get used to this. I want to hate it for 90 fucking years or however long I am here. I want to hate this. And I realized in the 3rd year, my passion is to fight against ever normalizing this. This is not normal. This is not okay.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sad Moms. Today, we don't have a sad mom. You are not a sad mom. But we do have a sad dad who happens to be my husband. Welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
I've talked a little bit about our story with Ry on the first episode, but I haven't talked about your relationship with him, which I think is a really unique father-son relationship because you weren't just his dad, you're his caregiver too. Maybe we could talk about what that was like being a caregiver to him and what your days look like.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing on the planet to talk about. I think the hardest thing to tell anyone about Rylan when they find out our son has passed or my son has passed is it wasn't just my son. He's everything that I think about from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep, how he eats, what he wears. Everything he does, he was reliant on us to give him care. But when you weren't around or the girls weren't around, it's 100% me. And at times could be daunting, but for the most part, it was just the best routine. And I miss it so much because that was 8 years of my life of everything that sweet boy needed. I was responsible for, and it gave me a purpose beyond anything I've ever known. And then it just stopped, and that for me just stopped my life, paused, and I don't really see beyond that. Afterwards, it was really hard. I think it's taken 2 years just to come out of not realizing that he's not my job, my purpose, my everything. So I think it was the best of times. I was the person he yelled at, he cried with, he would take his day out on, and I loved that. Whereas you and Neva and Selah, they were all a reprieve, and it makes me so sad that that was given to me. And I feel like my life peaked with that, and then now I'm just searching for something that means even half of that.
What were your favorite things about being his caregiver and his dad?
This is a different side of me. I think I've always been kind of that classroom screw up or never got good grades. I was never great at anything. I always bent the rules and hustled and always kind of slid under the rope when it came to everything in life. I was never, the best at anything. But when it came to him, it changed me. It made me organized, routine based. It made me happy. It made me so anal and OCD like you. And I feel like they say those things are born, but I don't think it's true. I was measuring out like by the milliliter for his CBD or all of his supplements every morning. I was up by 5. I was getting everything ready, and by the time he goes to bed, you start it all over again. And it was so much of who I wasn't before him that it made me realize that he just created such a wonderful structure for what I needed as a person, and everything was so regimented and laid out, and it was so clean and perfect. There was nothing in his life that I didn't know. I could walk into any doctor's office, I could walk in anywhere and know exactly what he ate, how he pooped, and I loved it. I loved every minute of that. When I would talk to other parents about it, it was funny because a lot of times you don't see dads, and so it's mostly at therapy or doctor's visits or even at school, it's always moms. But when I would talk to other dads, it'd be funny how we did things the same way. And there was kind of like, we had a little omerta amongst ourselves because it's different when you are a dad, because the expectations of moms are so much higher. Like, oh, you're the mom, you do it. But when you're a dad, I didn't know what I was doing, and I got to kind of create his life for him. And obviously, with you judging and making sure everything was perfect for him, I would make food. These are still like my fondest memories. I would make something new for him, and I would put like a sweet potato in there, and he would like it. And then you would come back and look at it and say, is this organic? Is it from a farmer's market? Is it from the, and I love that. I loved just that whole life that we shared, where it was just, you give him the best because this little boy gave us so much. And every minute that we were with him, every minute that we were with him, he relied on us. And then now that he has passed, I realized that was never the case. Like, my parents would always say, "Oh, you're so strong to deal with this," and I don't know how to explain to anyone. There was no strength of ours. It was all in this little boy. It was just, the more you gave him, you would just get back exponentially all this love. You make him his favorite food, and like his soups or his puddings or whatever you do it with love, and he makes you feel something that you've never. I mean, I can't explain it. It's such a beautiful thing that I know I will never experience that again. And it crushes me that our girls have to live life without that joy, that satisfaction. I mean, they wanted to change diapers, they wanted to clean his ears out, and they wanted to do his Epsom salt baths. They wanted to care for him, not because he needed the care, but that's how we love him. And whenever people say caregiver, there's so much attention given to the caregiver and not enough given to who's being cared for, because he just was so happy, the smallest things. And now I just don't feel that in life anymore. And I don't know how to exist in this world where I'm doing normal work. Sometimes they're good causes, sometimes they're not. And nothing feels the same. We just had this tiny little world of our own, this little oyster of chaos and madness, and now it's quiet, and I I don't know.
How has being his caregiver shaped you as a person into who you are today?
I think it's the closest thing to motherhood that I can think of. That you are transformed when you give life into this world, and when you have a. I don't have this with my daughters. I have to share with our girls. I have to create activities I have to share with them, but I shared every moment of my life with them. I shared my music with them. I would share my opinions, everything I had, and it completely evolved, because everything that I would say to this little boy, if I was negative or I had road rage or something, he would feel it and he would soak it in, and then I would hear it. And it changed me because I just realized I don't have to give the first negative thought in my head out. And I had so much restraint because I just wanted him to feel the positive love. And it came back, and I feel I was more patient. I was joyful. I can hear my voice in videos. I hear how you laugh in videos, and I don't know who that is anymore. When I hear his voice, even in the slightest bit, like he's not even in the video, I just want to cry and sigh and breathe again. I just want to breathe again. And I think that's how it shaped me. It made me realize that I didn't need a neurotypical kid. We never needed anything that he wasn't. And I think from the outside looking in, there was always this pity or this sense of, as though a sick child is a burden. My dad would always say, "What a shame." And I just, aside from yelling at him, I would just say, "You have no idea." He took me out of a world where I don't know who I would have been without him. I don't know how honest or kind or full of integrity I would be, or if I would just be picking at the little things like everyone else and with these champagne problems. And I feel he just made me whole. He makes me whole. He makes me understand everything that is not that big of a deal. There's bigger problems, and he had all the big problems, and you wouldn't even know it, because all you had to do was touch his hand and say his name, anyone, and they would just feel this little ball of light. And the caregiver aspect of it was just a cherry on top. I never felt anything but pride. And now I do work and there's pride in that, but it's just different. I don't think it'll ever be the same. I mean, I know it'll never be the same. And I just hope that I can do something towards him in his name. And you and I, when we talk about doing a project for Rylan or anything, even when the girls paint seashells, that feels far more connective and resonates more than anything that I could do in this life. If it just has an ounce of him, that's just how much he means.
What is something that Rai taught you that you keep with you today?
I think compassion and tolerance, because I want to get mad at everything now. I want to get angry. I feel that my anger is justified in situations when I talk to other families, when people are inconsiderate or selfish, and I just think I don't know what happened to their life that day. And with Rylan, all we ever wanted was for someone to look at him, not see anything, but just have compassion, be like, that's a lovely child. When I'm thinking those not great thoughts and I'm angry and this world will eat you alive now, if you're just a ball of anger, you can look anywhere and find it. And I think I go into myself and I try to just think of any moment of him, and it makes me more patient, more tolerant. Someone cuts me off. A parent says something insensitive about, oh, I could have just died. Oh, she almost killed herself. And things that just make my blood boil. I try to find, I'm saying the word compassion, but I think tolerance is what it is. And I do that for him because I remember being with him. I was tolerant of everything because I didn't want to get annoyed if someone stole a parking spot, even though I have this beautiful little child with disabilities in my car, or someone was rude, or all the negative things. He made me just calm. And I think now I try to keep that with me. Do I always? No. I struggle every day with it because I just want to wake up, scream, why the fuck is this our life? Go to bed and scream into a pillow when I'm touching my daughter before she goes to bed as she sleeps in his bed because he's not there. And I think tolerance and compassion, because if I don't have that, I don't know what I would be. I would just be out here starting fights with the world because I feel like the world picked the biggest fight with us and we just have to fucking wear it.
We don't have to talk about it today. So I've briefly, on the first episode shared about the day he died and that it was just really unexpected and sudden. How did you handle the first year after he died? Like, how did you get through the days? What did you find helpful? What was not helpful? How did you get through it?
Yeah, I don't think I did. I don't think we did. I don't think that year really happened because our life stopped. And I still remember the first week after he passed, and we had food everywhere. People were coming. There was a lot of noise. And I think the reason people do that is to distract you from this bomb that just went off. And I think for the first month, it was just planning his celebration of life, getting the girls to school, and not knowing anything. There was no time for process, for grief, anything. And when I remember I held his body in my arms for the last time. And I promised him that I would not fail you. I wouldn't. I will take care of them. And the first thing I said to you when I whispered that in his ear, and I kissed him, first thing I asked you was, I need therapy. I need talk therapy. I remember we had done marriage counseling, which I told you was a Ponzi scheme. And it was aimed at attacking husbands. But that was the first thing I thought, is that I'm going to go fucking crazy on her and those girls, and I can't do that. And within a week, I had a session, and my therapist is still with me now. And funny enough, he's out of network shortly after, and he just has kept me on pro bono because we've done such meaningful work to him, I guess. And I think that was a very big component for the getting through part of your question. If I got through anything, it was because there was something grounding me, and I had made a commitment to the therapy. I took notes. I actively was treating this like an open wound, like for lack of a better term, like just a gunshot wound that was spreading. And before it grew, I just kept working at it because I knew it would come out on you, it would come out on the girls, and that wasn't going to happen. And so as far as getting through, if I had advice for anyone, it would seek mental help in any form. And I think halfway through the year, we had started grief group, and that helped the sharing part of it. And because you carried the secret with you, this horrible secret that your son has passed, and it's not a secret that you want to hide, but nobody wants to hear it. And you learn very quickly that there is an expiration date on love when it comes to loss. I think getting help in any way, or being able to share this secret and connecting, I keep saying secret, but I mean,
Well, it's something that we can't like just talk about.
yeah, it's a scarlet letter that you wear. And I think what I was saying is that you learn there's an expiration date on love, because there's all this chaos and people coming and bringing flowers and helping, and some people are doing laundry and taking your kids to school. And it's a beautiful thing when you have that community, that village that everyone talks about, that's what family is for. Yeah. And then you see it after the celebration of life. It was like the floor was taken out from under you, and the calls stopped coming, the texts, hey, what can I get? And I think for the girls, it was heartbreaking, because now it was just silence. Their grandparents don't come over anymore. The family that was created, and these cousins who are not obviously blood cousins, are, you have to schedule out in weeks in advance now. Nobody's just coming by. And I'm not trying to say that was anyone's intention to hurt us, but we don't have anything to give. And I think I learned that in the first 2 or 3 months, that when you lose your child, you have nothing to give, and no one wants to hear it. They've heard the story. They said their goodbyes. They gave their condolences. They did what they had to do. They baked their dish. They brought their flowers. They made their peace. And now they go back to their lives, and ours have just begun to get terrible. And this is the only thing that I can completely agree with, is that time does not heal this. Time does not make it better. It slowly got worse and worse each birthday that came. Sayla's first birthday, Neva's first birthday, your first birthday. The first birthdays were excruciating. I didn't know why they were happening, where he was, what was going on, and there was no one in sight to help us. It was just you and me trying to steer a ship that had already hit an iceberg. And we got these 2 little girls who don't know what's going on, who don't deserve this. And and then we have to salvage relationships because people have just left. And I think when you said get through the first year, I don't think we did. I think, like, if you were to take an audit, we fucking lost the first year. Obviously, we lost our world with Rylan, but that first year, there was nothing right that we could do. I think aside from taking a trip for his birthday, his first birthday since he had passed, he would have been 9. We took 5 days. We went to Oceanside, and we just disappeared. We could see the ocean. We made it so much about him, and I don't think there's been a trip like that since, because it was just meant to be at that time. But that was the only thing I feel like we did right, and we tried to do everything right. From my therapy to you trying to find therapists, and you couldn't find anyone that connected, and grief group, and trying to take the girls I would take them painting every weekend as a form of an informal art therapy. But there was no one. There was no one in sight. So when it was like getting through the first year, what all I think is we didn't get through the first year. We lost so much of our. There's so much scar tissue that has built up from the loss of Rylan. We haven't even processed the problems that happened in his life because we never did. From his seizures to the betrayal of the medical system and doctors and everything, we never processed it because we just kept going. And then when he passed, it's all just sitting there. People make their piece. They come and they see the slideshow. They make some picture frames. And if I could do it all again, that part I would say, don't do anything in this month. Just check in. Just say, and if I don't respond, don't take it personally. None of this is personal except for us. And I think I get angry when you say make it through the first year because we didn't, and we could have used the help. We had, for 30 days, people were wonderful. 30 fucking days. And on the 29th day, which is his day of every month, we all made, a gesture of love for it, celebrated his life, and I think everybody put a period on Rylan's story and walked out. And so I don't think we made it through the first year. And when I see new families at grief group, which I fucking hate, but it feels like, if it's the only connection I can feel with people is when I meet them and they have just lost their child. It's the only thing I feel like I can understand and talk about and just say, hey, this is what happened for us. And I don't know, I think we didn't make it through the first year. And if I could help anybody in the first year, it would be to say, I hope you have people to lean on. We didn't. And if you don't, it doesn't get easier. And I think that's helpful because everybody wants you to feel it'll get easier. That first birthday, and then the next one won't hurt as bad. And as time passes, you can just remember all the good stuff. I remember all the good stuff too. I want it back. And I think there's this misnomer that just be happy that you had the memories. Yeah, but why can't I be fucking greedy and have my kid like everybody else? Why the fuck is this our destiny? And if it is, I'm going to make it the best I can for them and for you by just changing our lives so it's focused on him. But I don't think we made it through the first year. I think the second year was really hard because that's when I realized, like, from an income standpoint and everything, that's when life's problems that were just fucking sitting there came and crushed us. And you and I had to be stronger than ever because now we don't just have marital problems because of finances. They're finances because of the loss of our child, the loss of my job or at the time. And now, like, we're trying to sort out, are we having just normal family issues where we're trying to sort out our finances and get that house in order? Or is it now we're also realizing he's actually gone? There's a second birthday for Selah now because she's the first birthday of the year that we're celebrating without him. Last year wasn't just like a mistake or some type of anomaly. This is your life, and that is where it gets harder. Year 3 now, it's more impossible than before because you're just fighting getting used to it. I don't want to get used to this. I want to hate it for 90 fucking years or however long I am here. I want to hate this. And I realized in the third year, my passion is to fight against ever normalizing this. This is not normal. This is not okay. And we will find joy for him where we can. But yeah, I don't know.
One thing I'm always grateful about that not all sad moms always have is that you and I grieve very similarly. I feel thankful for that because even though all of our friends have left, which, like, let's talk about, did we do something? I can't figure out whether or not did we do something? Like, and I know we didn't. Our son died, but I'm always left with this feeling like, fuck, did we do something wrong? I don't know, but I don't know. It's just about surviving in the first year, and I think our friends couldn't handle that. But I'm thankful for the fact that we grieve the same way.
There's no surviving this in my head without that, because other people, from stories I've heard, there have been, wives whose husbands just completely shut off. We have friends now, sadly. Our friend group is just people who have lost children. And I don't say that sadly because they're wonderful people and I'm happy they're in our lives. I'm so sad of why they're in our lives, but and then there are dads who want to connect, and then there's moms who want nothing to do with it. And I'm not saying there's a right path for anyone as far as how you grieve, but I can't imagine what it would be like if I wanted to talk about Rylan and I just wanted to sit here and whatever it is, lick our wounds that our life is over as far as our family life is over because we lost our son and you didn't have time or you didn't want, can we talk, if you ever changed the subject, my fucking heart would break. And I think as far as I'm concerned, when we were with the girls in the beginning, they wanted to talk about it all the time. What is death? Who's going to die? If someone went to the hospital, and you and I had to be so strong throughout all of that because I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to listen to his songs. I couldn't even listen to songs that him and I shared. And we had to do it and we did it together. We never, ever shirked our responsibilities to the girls. And I think once we came out of year 2 and now we're in year 3, that lack of normalizing this, like, oh, this is our life and let's make the best of it, just hating life has been probably the most unifying bond that we have. Because if I started to be like, I'm feeling better about this situation, I hope you punch me in the dick. But because I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being miserable because it's for forever, in the sense that we are agreed that we are going to do the best we can with what we have, but that doesn't mean this is the best. I don't think, no matter how tired or angry or anything we are in life, that if his name is brought up, it's as sacred as people talking about their deities or their gods. And we hold that, and I think that is 1,000 other issues could come up in our lives that we could fight about, and I still think that bond holds us through it all.
Agreed. What is it like specifically going through grief as a dad, as a man?
It was lonely until I met other dads, because when I would show up at grief group, it wasn't a lot of people it wasn't bereaved parents, but it was people who have lost a spouse or something, and there wasn't men there either. And then when there were dads, it was the greatest connective tissue, because as a man, you're just not, there's still this weird Marlboro man masculinity thing that, it's still very machismo. Like when you talk about you lost your son, you're just supposed to, oh, that's okay. Well, life is life. And I think I'm just supposed to fucking drink a protein shake and go to a gun range, but that's not me. And for my whole life, my family and friends would always call me emo or say I was overly sensitive. And that was like something I wore in the wrong way. And then that proved to be kind of my strength with Rylan and having you and the girls, is that I can see past my own feelings or what I'm supposed to feel. And I've always just leaned into it. And I think after he passed, there was no one really to share it with, and that was a man, except my therapist, who is a man. And that helped. But as a man in general, you're supposed to be the strong, stoic, silent type with certain things and just pick everyone up and move on. And every time I would implore my father, who is my greatest role model as far as being a father is concerned, when Rylan was diagnosed, you and I would fight. That's when we went to marriage counseling, which I hated. But, we were fighting all the time because we didn't know what to do. This poor little boy is suffering. We don't know how to help him. I had to quit my job, which at the time was financially very, very helpful. And then you're losing income only to gain these massive bills. And it was really, really hard. And my dad was steadfast. You don't have to know what you're doing. Just show up, just show up, just show up is all he would tell me. And he would always just come to the house and be with Rylan no matter what. He'd make up excuses. Oh, I brought some mangoes if you wanted to try them. But he just came to visit him and always be with the girls. And when Rylan passed, he stopped. He took his pictures down from his house. He no longer came to the house. And he was there 3-4 times a week at our house, invited or not. And when I saw that, and he is my guiding light as far as how to be a dad, he just took me everywhere. He just showed up at everything. He didn't know what he was doing. He was great. And then that is so hard because as a man, when you have a role model or a mentor, especially if it's your father, you don't ever want to have that moment when you realize, dude, they suck. They're doing the wrong thing. And so that for me was really hard when I would say, can you talk about him? And I would implore him and beg him, talk about him, talk about him, just say his name. And then I realized I just have to shift that there are people below that don't understand it. I've met dads who have lost kids who don't want to say, who don't even want to recognize that they had the child. They don't even want to count them as the numbers. I've met dads who just don't want to say anything. And so from a male perspective, you're not supposed to gush about your kids. And I just leaned the opposite way. I'm not saying like patting myself on the back for it, but I couldn't be any other way. And then fortunately and unfortunately, I've met dads now along the way who are like-minded. One of our closest families, Landon was a child who passed. His dad, Mario, he spent all this time making these cool stickers for him, and he was passing them out, and he was so proud to do that. And I remember looking at that, and I was like, that's something I would do. Like, we would make little Rylan cards, or we would do whatever we would do. We leaned into it, and it's really cool to see. Again, not great that there's more dads. That means they have to lose a kid to be part of this terrible club. I haven't gone and hung out with anyone since Rylan passed. Even since before he passed, I didn't really go out for drinks much because it was not just the time, but I just didn't care. And I went out to breakfast with a dad who is completely different than I am. We would never meet in any other walk of life. And it was probably the easiest thing I've done with a man on a, like, we just had breakfast and didn't even have to focus talking about our kids that we lost, but you just understand each other. It's like the sad moms, sad dads have different, I guess there's different levels to it, because you could lose a kid and not be a sad dad. And you just, you put your chin up and you're just like, yeah, I lost my kid, but I shot a 42 at, at my, fucking round of golf. I don't know shit about golf, but and they just move on, and I'm not that. And it's nice to see when there are dads that aren't that way, because I feel more comfortable than ever. I feel more comfortable with them than my own family, like my own family that I grew up with.
We're both South Asian, Sri Lankan specifically. I know that it's been difficult for me, culture-wise. Like, I don't talk to my parents anymore because of how they have handled the grief around Rylan and how they have handled his death.
They left.
What has it been like for you as a South Asian man?
With family, it was very similar to your situation, but I had been prepared for it by Rylan's life. Rylan was sick from the time he was little. He had brain disease, and there was two ways of doing it. We did it the not South Asian way. You made a website. You would raise money for him. We had T-shirts. We had everything. We wore him and his struggles like a badge of honor. Our parents wanted us not to bring it out, not to talk about it, just to keep it to ourselves. Because when you're sick, or forbid you have something wrong in your life, if you're South Asian, you don't show that. You sweep it under the biggest rug you can and you move the fuck on. And I think seeing how your parents specifically handled Rylan passing made me madder at mine, because they have been great in our lives. My parents have been incredibly helpful. We live a mile from them, and they just stopped, and I wouldn't tolerate it. So I fought with them rather than just ignoring it and letting sleeping dogs lie. I attacked them, and we fought. The first year, crying fights with my mom would cry. You show that you don't love something with indifference, not hate. If you are angry and there's vitriol or some type of animus, you care. And if you give a fuck, you'll fight for something. And I give a fuck about my parents, so I fought them that they were doing all the wrong things for my family and for me. And they want to be in my life, so they stood on the other side of the phone and they fought back. And that was surprising to me. And now we're 3 years out, and they're just seeing the girls again. It's been 2.5 years since he passed, and my dad has just come into the house. And the only reason was because we had a small emergency. And I hate that. I hate our house has to be on fire for them to grow, forgive this expression, but to grow a pair and just face the anger, the sadness, everything that this life is for us. And I think they were scared of the girls. And I think South Asian people raise their kids to always put your best foot forward, but never talk about the bad ones. And I think our generation leans into self-love, or, hey, you have a problem, talk about it. I don't know if you talked about this on the podcast, but you and I have talked about the Japanese practice of kintsugi, where something is more beautiful for being broken. And I would never call Rylan broken, but he didn't lead this perfect life. He was never going to take his first step. He never took his first step unassisted. He never did anything that he was supposed to. And in our community, you do what you're supposed to and you're the best at it, or you don't talk about anything at all. Or you just fake it till you make it. You drive the stupid car, you get the job that you're supposed to, just so that your mom can brag to her stupid friends at temple. And with Rylan, it was never that. Your parents and my parents never talked about their grandson. And that didn't faze us at all, because we would overcorrect and email blast everybody that Rylan just did his first intensive. And I love that life. And I love banging against having that culture clash. Rylan was supposed to be broken from the beginning, and all he did was grow. All he did was outlast and live and laugh and just share so much love. And they were so worried about what the community or people that they don't even like would think, that they lost him. They didn't come and spend time with him when they could have. They didn't know him. And now when they say, I love him, I miss him, I pray for him, I can't think of a bigger insult. And I want to spit on the floor when I think about that shit, because it is such a disgrace to a child's life to lie to them. You love someone, you show up. That's it. And you lost your child only to lose your parents completely. I lost my parents for months. I didn't talk to my dad for 3 months, and it wasn't even because I was mad at him. He couldn't even talk to me because he couldn't deal with his own sadness and grief. And he just says, our people, we don't talk about that. And I was like, yeah, doing a bang up job for you in the community. It's just so backwards. And even this podcast, even all of this, the courage that it takes to put yourself out there and have people you don't know talk about it, I couldn't do it. And I listen to every one of them, and I get cringy sometimes, because I just think, man, there might be someone out here who has something negative to say about this. And then I get past it, and that's as far as I go as being Sri Lankan.
What are some things that you have found are helpful that I've done throughout our grief process? And what are some things that I have done that are maybe not so helpful?
As my partner?
As your partner in grief.
Okay. It's hard for me to think what you haven't done. I think...
Because I do everything right.
Yeah. That wasn't it at all. I think the best thing that we have done is understand boundaries. When I couldn't listen to a song, or I think I played Yaya Bunny, which is a little bunny that you play for him only when he's waking up or going to sleep. So it has this Pavlovian effect on everyone around, that something good is going to happen. He's waking up slowly or he's going to bed. And I think I just played it the other day or a couple weeks back, and you said, I can't do that. And I think the best thing that you have done for me is set boundaries with what you can and can't handle. Like when you couldn't handle the grief group originally, which, not to anyone's credit, but like there was no way of handling that group, because in the beginning we were in a group where people actually hated the person that died, but were just there for their kid. And we were like an ex-spouse or whomever it was, or a husband that died in an accident and they resented them or something. and we were just in the wrong space. But the girls were in the right space because they got to talk about death in an open way with their peers, and they were able to see other kids model positive behavior in grief. And when you said, I can't do that, they understood it. And I think to other partners out there, it's not so much about, you're going to be there for each other and you're going to take care of each other. But I think understanding when they say no, because I think there hasn't been too many things that I've said, but when I just said, I can't go to that hospital, or I can't drive by, I couldn't go to Napa Center, and you did the drop off when the girls wanted to go and volunteer, and you didn't say, hey, I think it's about time. You didn't impose what your opinion is of how I should be handling a situation when it came to Rylan. And I think it's less about sometimes what you do to make me feel better, because in that regard, all the things the small things, from the frames to picking a picture every day and all these little creative things you do, have literally saved our life as far as that aspect of it. But that is where I would say to the other families, to other grieving partners, understanding boundaries and just leaving it at that is awesome. Like, if I can't go to a typical family's birthday party, or I can't do something, so I'm just like, I'm not feeling it, and you don't even push it, that makes me feel so much more comfortable the next time I do want to try and do something outside of my boundaries. And I think the respect for that has been the best thing you've done, because literally you never would do that with anything else but Rylan. If I said, I don't want to wear this, you don't care. If I say you don't care about my opinion at all in this marriage, or anything big or small, but when it comes to that, I feel like there's just this trust that I have when I'm just like, hey, I have to leave this situation, or I can't. I think we've been at dinners and I have to go. Someone say something stupid and I couldn't tolerate it. That was in the first year. But even now, just understanding boundaries and still just constantly trying to find little ways. You bake every month for him, something for us to, and when you're exhausted, when you're tired, you do, like, all of those things for me is what, when we find little connective ways for him, or big connective ways, it's what keeps this ship going. So I would say setting boundaries and continuing to keep him living in this world of death.
How do you deal with, like you mentioned, just people making stupid comments?
I don't.
Okay.
I knew where you were going, and I just don't. I'm getting fucking worse at it. Just the carelessness with which people, if someone has a disease, you don't make a joke to that person. But when you know something this intimate, maybe just read the room. You know, you want to make a funny joke about a certain ethnicity, maybe don't do it in front of the ethnicity. Those get more pushback. Like, if you don't understand something, then if you use the word death so flippantly, we have people that we are with a lot that just say, dead this, dead that, could have died, almost died. Oh, that'll kill me. And it's so pervasive in society that I was good. Year one, I was not. I would mention things and I would say it. And then when that person keeps doing it, I can't say it anymore. So I stopped. Year two, I didn't notice anything. Now going into year three, I'm back to angry, where I'm just like, dude, fuck you. There's just one thing you can't say. Make a brown joke. You know what I mean? I get people call me, like, I get giant jokes all the time. I don't give a shit. Don't be reductive or minimize the worst part of my life. You know, it's like making it okay of what happened. And yes, my son died and you had nothing to do with that. But let's not go ahead and say, oh, I could have died that dead weight. Let's just extricate that word. The same way, if someone had sexual abuse, you wouldn't make any type of joke about sexual anything, harm. You wouldn't make a rape joke or be like, oh yeah, that was a little rapey. You wouldn't say that. You just wouldn't fucking do it, because you have consideration. And if I have to consider your feelings just because we're civil humans, this is like a big red line. And I'm getting close where, and I'll say this, it's mostly moms. It's mostly moms who take care of their families the same way we do, but because they want to emphasize how hard it was for them, they are just flippant about not even talking about death, but how big their issues are. And I feel like sometimes when we're in groups of people that have never experienced anything like we have, with Rylan, we already were experiencing hardships that no one could ever fathom, traumas that we haven't even discussed. So this is just par for the course as far as you and I are concerned, as far as being fucking trauma rangers at this point. But when we're in groups, I feel like people overemphasize how bad their lives are and then forget that it's just like, because we don't complain about anything. We just don't. Because whatever's happened, we're just there. We go to these parties, these drink things or whatever. We're just there and we just talk. And everybody has some type of issue. And then when they find out your child passes, the only thing I hope for is not pity, it's consideration. Just be compassionate and maybe just don't talk about death that way. And so I think I suck at that. I'm getting worse. You're pretty bad too, because you just won't even show up to the fucking thing if somebody you know is doing that. And I think there's just some repeat offenders that it's not like I'm letting them go. I just think at this point, if I said something, it's just gonna be a nuclear bomb.
What does being a dad mean to you now that we don't have Rye anymore? For me, I feel I go through so many. I feel lonely even though I have you and the girls. I feel alone. And I know you understand that. What is being a dad like when you don't have your son? When you don't have the boy that made you a dad?
Yeah. It feels like a cruel joke. It feels like imposter syndrome, that I'm a dad with the girls, but I'm not a dad anymore. I'm not a parent of my kids. I'm no longer parenting my family. I'm just, it feels very a la carte now. Whereas with Rylan, we were parents, we're a family, we're a unit, and the unit is broken now. And I don't know. I feel scared a lot as a dad. I feel like Selah had an allergic reaction. We ended up in the ER 3 bays down from where Rylan passed away. And I just feel like that bird in an alligator's mouth cleaning the teeth. You never know when the life is just going to close on you again. You're just going about your business. And I just feel like as a dad, the worst has happened. It's only likely that another shoe is going to fall or drop or whatever. I don't feel confident as a dad in that regard. I feel scared a lot. As a parent, if I'm out, like when I do gymnastics pickups, or we went to Ava's banquet and all the other dads, I think I just feel apart. I always felt apart, but in a good way. And now I feel apart, not in a bad way, like, oh, I want to be like them. I just want my kid. And I just want to have my kid. And if I have my kid, I don't have to be in this world, because with Rylan, we were never in this typical world. And now I have these opportunities to be out with these other people. I don't want them. I was at Neva's banquet and just groups of dads and just small chatter. And I found the fastest way not to be a dad that anyone wants to talk to is just talk about losing your child. And that'll get them running. And the ones that do engage, it's interesting because they're people I never would have thought that I would talk to. And they just have to do that one thing. They just have to say, I'm so sorry for your loss. And then not look at their phone and walk the fuck away and just say, do you mind me asking? And just show interest, just show some type of connection. And as a dad, that's all I'm looking for, is when someone I know knows about Rylan and they don't ignore it at all. They don't make oh, you're a dad of daughters, No, I'm not. I'm not a dad of daughters. I have 3 kids and I have a son and 2 daughters. And I think now I'm pushing harder as time goes on, that even if I'm at a fucking bus stop, I'm just going to say, I have a son and 2 girls, because I just want the world to stop ignoring his life by ignoring his death.
What's one of the most surprising things someone has done for you positively? We have so many negative stories, but is there a positive way someone has showed up for you unexpectedly?
Yeah, I have a close friend who was close with us because his brother had disabilities as well, and he actually ran the center that Rylan went to, and we were close, we were good friends. But then when Rylan passed, something changed, where he's the only person that I could say anything to very deeply and not have to explain it. And I think I wasn't so surprised by him or his character because he's always just been a phenomenal person, but just all the stuff in his life, just chalking out time to be like, oh yeah, let me grab the girls, and just constantly for years now I can say years, trying to find a way just into our lives, just trying to find a way to be like, hey, yeah, just I could reject going and hanging out at his pool 15 times and there'll be a 16th invite, and I think that's surprising to me because in this world of ours, you don't have that. And I don't ever expect it to be forever where somebody, based on the track record of the people around us, but I think he has surprised me in just constantly understanding and then at the same time wanting to just be a part of our lives, because we are not fun, interesting Ishani and Ram from 2000 and, pre-kids or with kids. We are not those people. And people don't want to go on that ride. I mean, your friends who were your sisters for over 20 years just couldn't do it. And so it surprises me now when people who we weren't close with, we're getting closer with, and they haven't gone through this. And so I think it just surprises me the depth of, I don't know, I think that people want to go for us because we don't have anything to offer. We are not that laughing good time every time. We can be, but yeah, so I think it just surprises me when people want to genuinely be a part of our lives.
How are you managing your grief now? We're like 2.5 years in.
The best I have. I think I'm working out again, which has been monumental. It's something I knew would work, but it's different when you just find a pathway forward. When we lost River, our dog, I stopped running because he died in a pretty shitty way as well. And that changed my life too, because I was at some point kind of a runner. And so getting back to that and finding myself in that part of a physical routine where it can just stop the broken glass on my head. The hardest part now with dealing with my grief is dealing with the girl's grief, because Neva's going through a developmental stage where she's having a lot of bottled up emotions that are just coming and bursting through. And I feel like you had a medical issue recently and life gets in the way of, and I think you said the hardest part about feeling physical pain is that you don't have time to grieve. You don't have time to access the most important part, which is just missing him and grieving for him, which is a form of love and release. So I think the hardest part for me now with grieving is being able to manage everyone around me's grief too, because I think when we all share it together, we do something connective, it sets us free. And I don't think we've had those moments, and that's been really hard. As I've been working more, it feels better. I think that's another component. I've exercised more, but now I'm finding more success in the work that I do. And that has helped. That's helped with confidence. It's helped with just overall, I still wouldn't say purpose, but overall well-being of me, just having something to do that will benefit us. And I'm not just, clocking in and clocking out.
Yeah. When those dark days come, how do you deal with those?
I don't know. I haven't had dark days in a while, but now I think it's scary because as time goes on, we talked about this a while ago, is that grief in the beginning was like waves, and we were getting hit every week, every day with these choppy waves. And then as time goes on, the big waves that'll take you down, they don't come as often. But now I'm seeing, like, when there are moments like a bad dark day, it is awful. as time goes on, the intensity of the really hard times, I think I'm traveling soon and I felt a lot of guilt and fear in that. And I'm learning now that I can anticipate the bad days. And I'm trying to find ways to talk it out with you, or maybe talk to the girls, or, get an extra run before they happen. But the dark days, I think communication is the only way. Just say, hey, I'm feeling fucked. Because for me, it comes out of nowhere and I don't want to do that. So I think that's it. Go for a run, because there's too many things in this world that we could do, too many options to have bad, dark days. And you don't want to drink them away. You don't want to scream them away. But yeah, I think now I deal with it by just communicating, hey, I'm going through this. And that in itself just takes half of it away.
How do we get through the rest of our life without our son? I think about that a lot. Every day is hard. Every day trying to manage him not being here is hard. So when I think about having to do this every day for fucking ever, I don't know.
I don't, because I see how you struggle with it. And I used to struggle with it, but I try not to think about where we go in a year, because then that will take me back to the first year where you don't know why you're here. So I can't think about a year from now because I'm seeing it every day. The girls, if you look back a month, they look smaller than they did today. And I don't get to see him grow up. I don't get to see what his first little peach fuzz looks like. I don't get to, as his caregiver, I don't get to watch you freak out when I'm shaving him for the first time. All of these I don't get tos that everybody just experiences. Nobody thinks when they have a 9-year-old kid, oh, I wonder what their high school graduation, because you just expect it. It's just supposed to fucking happen. So I can't do that because I can't look into the future. I look into what can we do next weekend that will get the girls out, because for me, I can't do what you do. I can't sit there and think about it and then have a rational thought afterwards. I just want to give up. If I think about how do we live this life without him, how are we going to have, he doesn't get his golden birthday, like all of those things that are just done, that are just like now, that's already been decided for us. I think fuck this life. I think probably day 3 of after he passed, I want to walk into fucking traffic. I'm not going to do that. But I'm saying that's how negative I feel about thinking about the future. I really don't even think about 2026 because I barely realize it's 25. And I look at a picture of him that seems like I took it yesterday because I took all his pictures and it says 2018. And I have to sit there and be like, that was 7 fucking years ago. So I have a hard enough time looking backwards and realizing how much time has gone by, let alone looking forward. So I just don't do it.
Okay. What's Rylan's legacy? What do you want him to be remembered for?
What he was to us, what he is to us. I want to put his name on anything and everything that is good. If we feed the homeless, if we plant a tree, I want his name on it. I want the same way people do that for people, but just the way he made everybody better. And his whole life was explained to us of what he couldn't do. And all I see is how much love there is. And I want to positively give, when I take the girls to clean the beach, it's the greatest feeling, except the girls are like, can we wear like Rylan t-shirts so that they know it's Rylan doing the beach too? That's all I want to do. I think his legacy should be anything positive for the community of children with disabilities and anything earth related, because in nature is where I find them. We find them in butterflies, we find them in pink trees, the breeze, everything. And I think his legacy should be not just his name on a building, but just doing wonderful things and thinking about him through it. And that gets me so excited, and I don't get excited about anything anymore. Just thinking about if we could have a space for him, I would do anything for that. I'd clean the toilets in that room and be happy to do it if it meant it was in Rylan's name for his people, for something that was just worthwhile. I think that's his legacy. because I don't know who I was before him, but I can't say I would ever want to be that person again. And I just want to be the person that has him. And if I can't have him, I will fight to have any positive connection with him. And if it's doing positive things, I think that's his legacy.
I said this to you at his celebration of life, now 2.5 years ago. Thank you for being, oh man. Thank you for being an incredible dad to him and to our girls, and for being just the best partner. I don't know how I would have gotten through any of this without you. You have saved me. And you have... Sorry. I just thank you. I don't know. I appreciate you.
You don't know what that means. I appreciate that so much. I'm the best.
Okay.
This was not hard. I was terrified this was going to be hard.
Thank you for doing it.
Absolutely. I think if one person, one dad hears this and feels some type of comfort, it's worth it. To all the dads out there, if there's anyone listening or runs into this, it doesn't get better, but there are changes you can make in your life to make it what you want, even though life has fucked us. If you love your child the way my boy is my everything, there is hope for connection still, but it's okay that your life is fucked. And if you feel that way, that's awesome, because I feel that way too. And yeah.
Okay. On that note, have a day. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of The Sad Moms. Help us spread awareness about grief and grow our community by writing an Apple review, rating us on Spotify, subscribing on YouTube, and sharing with as many people as you can. Until next time, have a day.